Welcome class back to Chapter 6, Positioning Objects with CSS and Tables. This lecture video will cover our second lesson, which is Add and Position Divs. So when we use fluid grid layouts in Style Sheets Design new website pages, you move from very long, complicated page code to much shorter page code because the bulk of the code moves from our HTML page to the style sheet. So to add a new page, you can save an existing page with a new file name and replace the content with the new content. So it's like using a page as like a template. Just make sure if you do step 1, if you choose that one, that you do File Save As so you don't lose your existing page. Number 2 says create a site template from an existing page and use it to create new pages. So you could create a file that just says template.html. It has no content on it, it just has the structure, and of course the style sheet would be attached. And then you would use that file to create new pages, and then again, File, Save As. Okay, number 3, again, we can do this if we're not using fluid grid layout. So from this point forward, you're going to want to use your existing pages to create your additional pages for Coffee Shop. So use that CS template.html file to do that. Every new blank page by default has one div, and it has the grid container clear fix. This div acts as a wrapper inside where all of the divs are placed. So here again is our code from Caffe that you downloaded from your zip file, and here's the classes: grid container space clear fix. Okay, and then we'll build all of our divs within that. So this is what we'll call the wrapper. Okay, so the wrapper. Okay, and in your CIS 154 course, you had the same thing. You had a container, and it most likely was called div ID wrapper. All fluid grid tags must be placed inside this div between its opening and closing div tags. A new page also contains an additional div on the page that's located inside that. So here's our new page. So we're going to place everything between this opening div and this closing div. Okay, so it's got to be inside the wrapper. And then this is what that second bullet was referring to. So here is that default div that is given to us. After you have used div tags to create divs, you can rearrange and or resize the divs on the page. You can look at the hierarchy of your structure through the DOM panel, and we'll practice that. DOM stands for Document Object Model, so you want to think of your web page as a document, and it's displayed in the web browser, and it has an object model that is with it. And you'll see this more in your JavaScript class and jQuery, and as you continue to learn more about web pages. So the DOM panel, again, lets us see a hierarchy, a tree diagram of how things are nested inside of each other. Who's the parent, who's the child, that type of order and position. So here is an example of that. So in this one, we have a body tag, and then we have a div which has the grid container clear fix assigned to it. Within that we have a content div, and then within content div we have header and nav and div. Within the div fluid intro paragraph we have another div. Within div we have table. Within table we have caption and t-body, and then all of the table rows are located in t-body. Within table rows we have a th and an hr tag. And so that is the DOM panel and how it shows us a tree of how things are structured. We can also see this in the web browser, and I'll show you that today. So let's look at pages 611 through 615. So I'm going to go ahead and use the book this time to jump to that. Okay, so with the new blank cafe page open in design view, change to split view and then scroll to find the div 1. We're going to take that div_1 and we're going to replace it with content. Okay, so we'll put it right here. Okay, and we'll do content. Okay, back here. This will match the rest of the pages in the site and allow the content div selector to apply the properties that come from our style sheet. In Code View window, select the placeholder text for content and delete it. And what we're going to do is we're going to insert a header tag inside of it. Anytime it tells us to create something inside of our fluid layout, make sure you prefix it with the word fluid. So we're going to go ahead and remove this placeholder text. Okay, so we'll just delete it that way. We'll come to our insert panel and make sure you're not doing heading. Make sure you do header. Okay, and when we're in these dialog boxes, we are going to place fluid first and then whatever the book tells us to call it. So fluid space and then whatever the book instructs us for the next name. So now we have a fluid header div. Okay, and what we're going to do is we're going to remove the placeholder text for this one as well. So now if I click back up here in design view, I now see the banner. And the reason that the banner showed up is because that's what's specified in our style sheet. Okay. Okay, so whenever it talks about the quick view button, this is where we're going to look at the DOM. So let's check out the DOM, and here it is. We have body, then we have the div with grid container clear fix. We have one with an ID of content with a class of fluid, and then now we have our header with a class of fluid and class of header div. Okay, adding a new div and pasting the menu bar into it. So we are going to now add a new div, and that div is going to be fluid space intro underscore paragraph, and then we're going to incorporate the navigation into that. Okay, so the bottom figure here is what we're going for, minus this p tag. Okay, so let's go ahead and do that. So after header, we are going to insert, I got to get onto the right page here in my physical book. So we're going to do a div. So insert panel, HTML category, div, fluid space intro underscore paragraph. Okay, and then we are going to delete the placeholder text. We're going to open up the index file, because that has our navigation in it. We're going to find our nav tags, and we're going to copy nav to nav. And we will place that right here in this div. I'm going to enter down, move this back so that it lines up, and then I'm going to insert my navigation. So indentation is important, okay? It's something that you should practice all the time. So if you want to tab these in, you can use your toolbar to go ahead and tab them in as well, just so it looks like a hierarchy. Okay, now if I come over here, that's actually what I see over here in the DOM. Now I'm not going to see this in design view, right? Because we learned that in chapter 5. So now when I look at live view, I see that it is there. Okay, that's what you'll do there. And we'll continue on in adding more divs. So let's come here. Okay, so now we're going to add our footer in. So we're going to go to place the insertion point before the last two ending divs. So there's 3 of them here. So before the last 2 ending, and we'll enter, and then insert footer. Okay, and again, fluid, and this one is footer underscore div. Okay, so now we have a footer. It's styled because the style sheet says that's what we need to do. Okay, we'll leave the placeholder text because I just want to go in the order of what the book is doing. In split view on page 15, it says place the insertion point in front of the opening footer tag. Okay, and then we're going to insert another div. So we're going to call it image underscore div. So fluid. Okay, so now we have that div. Okay, and then we're going to go to, we're going to skip steps 11 and 12. Okay, so let me get to this page. So when it talks about this place, creating this for the menu bar, there is no need to do that as long as your navigation is inside of Fluid Intro Paragraph, because the font is there already. So it just inherits down through the children. If you look at your font and it looks like Times New Roman or something like that, more like this type of font, and then you know that you don't have it placed in within the Fluid Intro Paragraph div. Okay, I am missing one div, and I knew that. It's right here before the image div, and this one is called Fluid. Fluid intro underscore paragraph. Okay, so now I see that that is up here. I'm going to go back to design view. So this is what you should have when you have completed lesson 2. Let me know if you have questions. By the way, this is an example of what you have for an option for a hands-on final at the end of the semester. Okay, and I'll talk more about that as we get a little closer, but again, this is kind of what I have you practice for the hands-on final.